Derry 115, Donegal start the Ulster Senior Football Championship with a win, a big win at that, a 10-point win over their fierce rivals in Derry. Look, it was an interesting game. It wasn't the best game, to be honest with you. It was intriguing at the best of times. I don't think it was your vintage Ulster Championship game. I don't think this game had the intensity or sort of, this was the game of the weekend, really, when you looked at all the championship games. I mean, especially in terms of what was available on TV and everything else. And also with the fact that Derry are obviously going down to Division 2, but two big counties, two counties with some very, very good players on either end of the pitch. But it just didn't really feel like that. It didn't really feel like either side really played their best. I mean, Donegal won by 10 in the end. They were very, very good in the second half. But even in the first half, it didn't really feel like either side were really getting going, to be honest with you. And it just felt like Donegal always had Derry at arm's length as well. Anytime Derry had a run of kicking a couple of points, or even when they get the goal, I mean, it's just a minute later when Donegal get their own goal. And even at the start of the second half, when it looked like, because it was very even at half time, it was only 2 or 3 points in it. You felt like Derry were more than within this game. And you felt like if they could kick on in the second half, given that Donegal, I don't think we're at their absolute best, then maybe there could be something in it. But to be fair, once Derry started the second half very, very well, but Donegal were outstanding after that, and they kicked, I think, about 7 or 8 points without reply in the space of what felt like 10 minutes. And Donegal just kicked on after that, and they were very, very comfortable. And it was just like, there was a part of me watching that game and thinking it didn't feel like a Donegal-Derry game. It didn't feel like what a Donegal-Derry game should feel like. It didn't feel like a big Ulster Championship clash. It felt more like watching, with all due respect, Donegal versus Down, or Tyrone versus Fermanagh or something like that. It didn't really feel. It felt like Donegal were always in control and they were always a step ahead of Derry, and it shouldn't be like that, because look, I know Derry had an awful championship last year, but they're still a very good side. They're still a very, very good team, and they have a lot of very good players. And look, Brendan Rodgers showcased that today with 5 points. Like, he was outstanding, I thought, for Derry. I probably wouldn't have given him man of the match now, as Philly McMahon did, but I still thought he had a very, very good performance, and kicked some brilliant scores in there. Like, they've got good players, but there just seems to be a lack of energy about Derry, a lack of ferociousness. Like, I think back to when they were managed by Rory Gallagher, and even at times under Mickey Hart, going back to the league last year, there was a bite about Derry. There'd be heavy challenges, quick football. They'd look bang up for it. The crowd will be up for it as well. Whereas now you're watching them and it just feels like they're going through the motions. It looks like half of them don't even want to be there. Doesn't look like Paddy Tally wants to particularly be there. Doesn't really look like he knows what to do as well with these Derry group of lads. And it just they just look like they were out of ideas, to be honest with you. And it's a sad state of affairs, because look, it's been great to watch Derry's rise over the last couple of years. And I think the more teams you have up there, the better Gaelic football is. But, there are a lot of key players within that Derry side that are getting on a bit. There's no doubt about that. Shane McGuigan, as we very well know. You've, Brendan Rodgers, even Conor Glass to a certain extent. And it just feels like this golden era of football for Derry is sort of just whittling away. And look, they might be able to get it back next year, maybe with a new manager or something of that nature. I don't know what way, but they're going to have to do something, because this was just so comfortable in the end for Donegal, and it didn't really feel like they ever got out of third gear, to be honest with you. They were so comfortable in my opinion. But there we go. Acer says Hurling League finals were both fantastic games to watch. Yeah, we will have a review out a little bit later discussing the Cork game, and that's the reason why this game is a little bit delayed, because I was watching that, and yeah, what a performance it was by Cork, in fairness. Gaelic Guy says Donegal always look comfy and always a predictable finish to the match. Sligo and Mayo was a good watch. Mayo seeming dodgy currently. Yeah, I wasn't watching that game, but I was keeping an eye on it. It was only 3 points in it at half time and only 3 points in it at the end. Sligo definitely giving Mayo a good run for their money. And that's 2 years in a row. I mean, they were a lot closer to beating Galway last year. But they gave Mayo a good run for their money there. In fairness, but look, taking it back to this game, Very comfortable in the end for Donegal. Dara O'Bweel, what a performance from him. 1-4, outstanding. Brilliant with 2-pointers as well. Patrick McBearty, very good with 7 points. Michael Murphy, very good around midfield, I thought, as well. And shout out to Kieran Moore, who I thought, from coming into the team last season, he's definitely been one of the unsung heroes. And maybe a bit of I'm pretty sure he could be a bit of an outside shout for Young Footballer of the Year, but correct me on that. He might be ineligible. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. But, and you still have players like Jamie Brennan and Oisin Gallen who could come off the bench as well. But yeah, it was just very, very comfortable. And ultimately, it was that spell in the second half where Donegal kicked, 6-7 points on the bounce. Derry obviously missing a penalty as well. And it felt like every time Derry could come back into the game, and it felt like every time they were knocking on the door to come back into the game, they just couldn't. And Donegal always just had them really at arm's length. And, is that a case of Donegal not going full throttle because, they obviously play Monaghan next, which is obviously going to be a very tough game. Then you're going into the Ulster semi-finals potentially if they come through that. So there's a lot of very intense games coming up for Donegal, and it did feel like they were reserving themselves ever so slightly. But yeah, in the end, Donegal come through with a 10-point win. For Derry, it's mad to think they haven't won a game this year. Paddy Talley hasn't won a game as Derry manager. Where do they go from here is going to be interesting to see. They go into that group stage as you would expect with some of the top 4 teams that Derry should get a win on the board. But to be honest with you, it's not looking good for them. It's not looking good for them. And, you can lose games and everything else. And look, I expected Donegal to win this by 7 or 8 points. That was my prediction going into this game. But I thought Donegal would play better and therefore Derry would play better as well. I didn't think it would be Donegal not at their absolute best, but yet still win by 10. Do you know what I mean? I feel like if Donegal had been fully at it in this game, they probably could have won this by more. And as I was saying, it just had that feeling of Tyrone versus Antrim or, Donegal versus Fermanagh. It didn't feel like what a Donegal-Derry game should feel like. It was very, very comfortable in the end for Donegal. But look, fair play to them at the same time. You have to give Donegal credit. Because, every time it did look like Derry would get into the game, Donegal would step it up. And they always kind of had Derry at arm's length. And they're very good at that as well, I feel, Donegal, especially when they get a lead on a team. And yeah, Peadar Mogan was very good, I felt, as well. Very good performance from him. Kieran Thompson as well had some bright sparks. And yeah, Donegal march on. Do let me know your opinions, your comments down below on this game. Big result in the end for Donegal. As a few people were saying there, certainly some interesting results in the championship today. A lot of results we were expecting, to be fair, with Mayo beating Sligo, albeit it was a little bit closer. You've got Galway versus New York thrown in about an hour's time. We know Galway are going to win that game, but it's always an interesting spectacle to watch. And yeah, congratulations to Donegal, commiserations to Derry. Let me know, supporters of either one of these two teams, what you thought in the comments down below. There will be a video dropping a little bit later discussing Cork, who today won the National Hurling League for the first time in quite a long time as well. So we're going to be dissecting that and breaking it down. So stay tuned for that. But until the next one, we'll catch you all later.